Hi, welcome back. And now I've got special co-MC Ed Wolf with WG. Amber is still answering those problem tweets around the corner, but we're back. And, I want to thank Professor Hansen and Dan Faculty with Bilo Holdings, chair of the NRF's Education Committee. Both of them have really been on the ground floor of encouraging education within the LP industry and really doing a lot of engagement with the NRF. You heard from Professor Hansen earlier. He's committed to this event. He's committed to the NRF, but he's really committed to higher education. Does a really great job. So this morning and this afternoon, we've had some great sessions. We've heard about the NRF and how sessions come together. We've heard a little bit about the Education Committee. We're going to hear a lot more now about how to develop people, how to work with partners, law enforcement, organized retail crime, and how to develop people within a large company. But I have co-MC Ed Wolf with me, and as you may or may not know, Ed spent many years within the retail industry, leading large companies, smaller retail organizations, working his way up like many of us do within the industry, but he's a wealth of knowledge now with WG. Ed, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Ed, taking advantage of both your experience on each side, you've worked with a number of service providers over the years. You're with WG. I know that you've spent a number of years. How many years with them now?
5 years with WG.
5 years. WG's doing some fascinating things. You've made some announcements over the years. You're exhibiting here at the show. You're really committed to this program today. What makes WG different?
Well, thank you, Joe. I think that the key to what makes WG different is that we listen to our customer. So many times when I was buying something, it was what was on the shelf that they were able to sell me. And in the most recent past, we've been able to identify what caused shortage for our customer, and design a system or design a process or a program that would actually reduce their shortage considerably, at least to achieve a really good ROI. So one of the things we do is we will sit down, do some blue skying with the customer, and understand what they need, and then we'll work to design it and bring it to the market very quickly.
That's great. Now, as you do that, you've got some really fascinating technology, and I think that I've heard you're really involved with RFID and the supply chain work and the new initiatives that a number of retailers here at the show have been talking about. Tell me about the RFID experience. Where are we really headed?
Well, it's interesting. RFID has been touted for 10 years, 15 years now. And the real issue with RFID is that retailers for a long time haven't figured out what they want to do with RFID. It's a nice idea to have, but we recently, in doing some of that blue skying with a retailer, customer of ours, we identified the fact that what they really want to know is what product is leaving the building based on this EAS, at what time of the day. So and so then they look at the velocity of what high theft merchandise is. So what we really got going in one of our customers today is that we tag it with an RFID tag that is also an EAS tag, so you're not putting a second tag on. Right. And as a result of that, what happens is that as the customer exits the building without paying, it will cause an EAS event. It will also turn the camera and take a picture of them, but in that same case, we'll know exactly what they're stealing as well. And at that point, then we can start to one, catalog who they are. If it's an ORC event, then we'll have that information. But now they know, one, what they need to put it back on the shelf. They also need to know what the velocity is of what it is they're losing. So it's really helped them to understand what they need to protect, and we can then put a strategy together to help protect it a little bit better.
So help me out, because I try and wrap my mind around this this question. Just give me a gut check. Am I crazy here?
Probably.
We think about RFID and the dual technology, the EAS, and use it for the supply chain and physical inventory counting, etc. What's the probability of using those tags after the fact. So when an organized retail crime case is close to conclusion and using those tags to take account of a fence operator's inventory, or on a fake return, identifying product that may have been stolen from a store, or at least what location it came from, and using the information to process the return or decline the return. Are we headed that direction? Is that even possible with the technology? Where do we go?
Well, I mean, the issue really comes down to is the tag still going to be on the merchandise when you recover it from the the shoplifter, and if it isn't, then of course it isn't. Are we going to ever embed these things in the clothing? I don't see that in the near future, because the fact of the matter is retailers don't want to know a lot about the merchandise that they're selling. They want you to buy it, take it home, and never see it again. So, the whole idea of using it for some ulterior purpose after the fact is not really something that a customer necessarily wants. A customer of regular John Q. public, or the customer as a retailer. And so if you don't have a customer for the product, it's not going to get developed. Now, we've had some discussions with some people about GPS. The problem is the tag is just really too big at this point, and it needs a battery, and so you have some issues
Battery
like
life
that.
problems, right?
So it's there, but we're continuing to look at it. We're continuing to determine that. I mean, that's really the history of RFID. With RFID, the reason why we're at this place now is because we continue to stay with it. It would have died 5 years ago.
Right. This really started as the source tagging, and it's evolved now into the RFID. And when you were talking about this dual EAS technology, are you recycling those tags? Are they hard tags, or?
They are, well, actually the ones we're using with this one customer are smart tags.
Okay.
So they would stay in the building, they would stay in the store, and then they just use them over and over again in the store. And you scan the tag and you rewrite it to the new product. It's a very simple process. They use it in source tagging all the time. So it's a very easy, not labor-intensive process.
Okay. So I'm going to just shift gears and maybe pick your brain for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Don't disclose anything super confidential. I don't have clearance for that. Well, maybe not.
And I can't keep a secret, so don't ask the question.
Okay, all right. Well, let's try this. So if you looked 5 years into the future, mm-hmm. what's on the radar? What is on your radar if retailers were willing to adopt new technology, if the landlords were willing to allow these creative equipment installations, and the tags were some ideal revolutionary solve? What does the world look like? How do we apply that technology, and what role does WG play in it?
Well, interestingly enough, we did mention in our segment earlier today about Wi-Fi access to our own pedestals. When it really comes down to it with an EAS tag, and there isn't anything on the horizon, honestly, that is a better deterrent for a shoplifter. So one, I do see us as all the vendors or manufacturers tagging the merchandise and bringing it in the store. I see the labor in the store completely going away, because the fact of the matter is it is extraordinarily expensive. And one of the little dirty secrets about retail EAS.
Dirty secrets in retail? Hold on.
Dirty secrets and is that if you went out, if today, the CFOs of today that we work with, if they had evaluated the cost of putting an EAS tag on clothing back in the 70s, they would never have done it. It's just that labor was more plentiful then, and they didn't think twice about it.
Right.
That today we've got one customer that we're working with the whole idea of source tagging and recycling that hard tag, and we're going to save $10 to $12 million for them in 1 year, just in a given year, at no cost to them, by the way. So that's the kind of thing I see in the future. The other thing is we have Wi-Fi systems now that where we can access the system, our pedestals or our EAS antennas from anywhere. We were in our booth. We had one in from China, and we were accessing it from China. We were adjusting the gain on it from here for China, so we can now determine exactly what's causing the alarm, why is it if it is a false alarm, what's causing it, giving that information to the store without having to send a tech out and spending 3 days or 2 days doing that. Plus, we can also give you all your alarm data and all that stuff, and whether it was acknowledged, whether they took, just a lot of things that used to have to put it in on a box on the wall.
Right.
So I see that more and more things happening that way, as opposed to the hardwiring of processes in the stores.
Right. So Ed, let me ask you this question. You've worked both in retail, now a service provider. There's people that make those transitions, and some are super successful like you. Others, not so much. What advice would you offer to someone that is maybe considering going into a different line of work? They're ready to do something different in retail. They have a great idea. They're a serial entrepreneur. They want to do something different. What advice would you offer them?
Well, I think the key to it is that you have to remember your roots. I mean, from my standpoint, for 35 years, I was a VP of loss prevention for a lot of different companies. Not a lot. I didn't go to that many companies, but I did 10 years at a stint at a time. The point is that you have to remember your roots. You have to make sure that you recognize that if you're developing something, it has to have an ROI. If it doesn't have an ROI and it's just a good to have, you'll never sell it. Right. So it's all about saving money. It's all about providing an ROI for a very skeptical CFO, and make sure that it doesn't slow down point of sale. It doesn't create labor in the store. Because all of that is time and money. And if your product does anything to hamper that, then it's absolutely out of the question. You won't even get in the door.
Fantastic. I think that's great advice. I want to thank Ed Wolf for co-emceeing this segment. We're headed now back to Gus Downing, who's going to talk about the LP Legislative Initiative with Jeff Fulmer from Barnes & Noble, John Gold from the National Retail Federation. Gus, back to you.